Hey, now it's the Rob from 106.1 KISS FM here with my 16-bit colleague.
Hey guys, it's Steve, web contributor to 1061evansville.com. And every time I create a wrestler, they look like the Rob.
Oh, well thanks. Those poor wrestlers. That's what we're actually going to be talking about today, wrestling video games. Steve and I, as we mentioned last week, and if you can't tell by our apparel, we are big fans of pro wrestling. And there has been a long-running history with video games and wrestling dating back to, as near as I can tell, to the NES.
Yes.
The first wrestling game I really remember existing is a game called Pro Wrestling.
Yes. The Amazon.
So is that, I mean, is there one earlier that I'm not aware of? Is that at least the first popular one?
If there is, I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, that was on the NES, and it had, like, the old cartridge design. Like, remember how all the cartridges had, like, the same layout in the beginning?
Yeah.
Pro Wrestling had that. So do you have a lot of memories of wrestling games on the NES, Steve?
I have Pro Wrestling, and then I have, again, the worst wrestling game ever, the WrestleMania, with the 6 wrestlers, very blocked. Pro Wrestling was actually better than that on the NES.
Pro Wrestling was a solid game, although there was one on the Nintendo that I didn't want to let go. The WWF's Steel Cage Challenge.
Okay.
Ever played that game?
I don't know that I've played that one.
It was kind of, didn't exactly play like WrestleMania, the one that disappointed you, but you could get like, you know, Bret Hart and Roddy Piper inside of a steel cage match, which in the 8-bit era was a fun time.
Yes.
But the first game I really delved into, I didn't become a fan of wrestling until 1994. And the first game that I got a chance to really love and own as a wrestling fan was Monday Night Raw.
Yes.
Or Raw on the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
A game you're familiar with?
Oh, yes. Love that game.
It did not change much of the formula from the games that have preceded it. Games like Super WrestleMania, games like Royal Rumble, which were all great games. It had a deep roster of 12 wrestlers,
yes.
11 guys and 1 girl. Can you name the girl?
I knew you were going to put me on the spot.
Luna Vachon.
Ah, yes.
But
okay.
it was a who's who of everyone that I loved and hated of WWF at the time. And I still didn't understand exactly how wrestling worked, so I was always Bret Hart. I loved being the Hitman. Yeah. He was my hero. 16-bit memories of wrestling games, Steve?
Yeah, Monday Night Raw. Basically, me and a buddy standing at opposite ends of the ring in the Royal Rumble, just tossing one guy, throwing him out. It wasn't even a Royal Rumble. It was just us bullying other characters.
Remember, you could use the bucket outside the ring?
Yes.
And if you knew the secret codes, you could do, like, superhuman moves.
Yes.
Like, you can make Yokozuna jump from one turnbuckle to the other, or maybe that was 1, 2, 3 Kid, or whatever the story was. So there were the games like that, and then when gaming evolved, wrestling games had some hits and misses.
Yes.
Some hits include WCW vs. the World.
Yes.
Remember that game?
Yep.
Or NWO Revenge,
yes.
Another WCW game. But also clunkers from that time frame. Like, did you ever play WCW Nitro?
Unfortunately.
It played more like a Street Fighter game.
Yes.
It was not good. The graphics were it was just a bad game.
Yeah.
And there were a few games like that. Thunder rings true as another example of just a bad game. But to me, it was also the highlight. I think the greatest wrestling game of all time, again, my opinion, are No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000.
Yes.
Those games are still what I think the template should be for wrestling video games. Agree, disagree, where are you at?
I definitely agree. I love WrestleMania 2000. I think it really kind of got the ball rolling on the creator wrestler. I love the replay endings. I mean, where you could just watch the same move. If you had a cool ending, watch the same move over and over again.
Yeah,
and loved it.
You remember you could put people in a cage, and you had great ladder matches, intros, and theme music. And I mean, that was a total package. And it is, in my opinion, now stop me if you disagree, that wrestling games went downhill after No Mercy.
There was like a plateau because WrestleMania 18 or XIX, where you could actually leave the ring and go to the mall and actually do missions. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed that myself. And then like Day of Reckoning on the GameCube. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I think they kind of fell off.
Yeah, to me, those weren't great examples of games. I never got into the SmackDown series. I tried. I don't like the Raw vs. SmackDown games. No. I don't like any of the SmackDown standalone games. And even still to this day, the 2K games. I want to like them, but I don't. Your thoughts?
2K15, I feel like they're starting to come back around. They have an easier button configuration. I think they're getting back to the old school play. So I think maybe in 1 or 2 more games we may have a really great wrestling game again.
Yeah, they seem to want to not acknowledge the way that those older games played because they probably feel old now, but I wish that they would go back and revisit stuff like that. So, what are your favorite wrestling games? Did we get all yours that you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I mean, WrestleMania 2000, probably my favorite. No Mercy is right there along with it. And then, WrestleMania 18, First Day of Reckoning.
Sure.
That's my library of wrestling games where they got really good.
Yeah, to me, it's the late 90s, very early 2000s.
Yes.
But then it went quickly downhill, in my opinion. You can do more now. Like, you can even add theme music and videos to your entrances. And the creative wrestler is phenomenal in all of these games. It's fun to do that, too. It takes a lot of time, but it can be very fun and fulfilling. But when it gets between the ropes, I just don't like them anymore.
Yeah,
So,
I'd rather create the guys and then just let them go play.
So to wrap up our series on WWE and wrestling video games, thank you for tuning in to this edition of the 16-Bit Superstars. For myself, the Rob, and of course my buddy Steve.
Thanks, guys.